It's Pokemon Colosseum once more and again. Perhaps the last. Who knows? You'll know by the time it comes out because it'll be in the title.
Yeah, who knows? I seem to remember, because I had the strategy guide when I was like younger, that there wasn't that much. Oh, should I have not fought this guy again?
I have no idea. What, do you want me to reset already?
No, don't worry about it. I might be able to win, but his Pokemon are like really, like, they're way more
intense.
Look, they have like 53. My Pokemon are like 10 levels weaker.
Damn.
And it's just kind of like, at this point, you probably should go and grind and do the battle tower. But like,
insisting in our comments on the last video that you shouldn't have to grind the way that you've had to grind. They were like, oh, if you play through the game normally, you should be like good.
I don't understand. I'm playing through the game normally.
Yeah.
I'm going through each story battle in the order they're supposed to be. I am fighting every single trainer. Okay, the thing about this game is I don't like it.
Yeah.
I don't really want to play it off screen. I guess that I could, but I really wanted to talk about some things today that I didn't even remember that I probably should have grinded a little bit. Now I feel a little stupid.
No, it's all good.
But it's okay. He just wiped out his Hariyama, which is a pretty good Pokemon in Gen 3.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he is a Gen 3 guy. There's the weirdest sprinkling of Gen 3 into this game.
I mean, this game, I think, was created to put some of the Gen 2 Pokemon that you had no way of capturing up to this point in the mainstream games.
Yeah.
But it does seem weird, because, like, you're trying to play this game. It's like, oh, Pokemon is brand new, it's 3D, it's like, it's all your favorite guys, and it's just mainly Gen 2.
What Pokemon that you couldn't catch in the games could you catch in this?
You have Umbreon and Espeon. Basically, all the Shadow Pokemon are... Altaria is pretty common in Ruby and Sapphire, but most of the Pokemon that are Shadow Pokemon are just guys that there was no other way to get at this point. So
like,
they just
how come
kind
you
of...
couldn't get Umbreon or Espeon?
Because there was no day or night in Ruby and Sapphire. So if you had an Eevee...
Oh, so it was for Gen 2 Pokemon that you needed to get in Gen 3, is what you're saying. Okay.
And I think Fire Red and Leaf Green were either like being developed or had already come out when this game came out. I think they were still being developed, but they have like the sprites of Fire Red and Leaf Green trainers in this game, so they obviously knew that like you would be able to get Gen 1 Pokemon, so that's why it's only Gen 2 Pokemon that are really in this game.
Weird. Except Pinsir's Gen 1, right?
Yeah, but I mean Pokemon that you can capture.
Okay.
But it is a weird mix of guys.
Yeah, this is a fucking strange game all around. Well, we wanted to talk about something more current, I guess. I just think was part of why you wanted to do Pokemon. This is the Vic and Hope episode.
Yes.
Where they called out the PCP.
Okay, first of all, I'm very happy that
Victor did specifically.
They are doing Vic and Hope again.
Yeah.
Because I've been missing a Let's Play in my life, and I really enjoy their dynamic, and it's fun to watch, and I'm always looking forward to them. So I'm happy that you guys are making more. I just, like, when I was listening to that episode, I thought it was it kind of seemed like Vic was jilted a little bit, and he was coming at everybody in the PCP. Mind you, these are people that he has professional connections with that he's kind of shitting on. Like, he was the cameraman for RadCon 3. He got paid a good amount of money for that. And, like, it's a connection that he didn't make through college. Right. And he just is kind of, like, shitting on all their careers. And it kind of, like...
What, rubbed you the wrong way?
Yeah.
Well, what do you want to say in response to it? It was a lot. It was like, I mean, I made a whole response
Tom
video.
also watched it with us, and
Tom, like, after he happened to come in the room while we were watching the episode, and then he heard Victor talking shit, so he went and watched it himself, and he was like, wow, I'm like legitimately offended. He was like, that was like a lot, you know? And then he watched my response video that I had filmed in the time he had been doing that.
Yeah, I mean, I think that a lot of it was because he had a college experience that he's proud of, and he, like, I can understand being frustrated when people are dissing on school and saying, like, hey...
Because you get frustrated, because you had a relatively positive experience, or you had things that you got out of college.
It's hard to take advice from people who don't know where you're coming from or don't value the things that you've been through when you know that you put a lot of effort into something and that you took the right path for what you're trying to do. But the fact of the matter is, like, college is an option. It's a discussion. There are pros and cons. It's not that everybody should be going to college.
Right.
In this case, Munchie, who has up to this point been working with the PCP guys, has done a lot of...
Before we continue, I feel sincerely sorry and must apologize to Munchie for the fact that whether or not he goes to college has been the massive discussion amongst like a broad open internet audience, like all commenting on whether or not he should go to college. I mean, which is why I tried not to bring it up too much in my response video, because even though that's what Victor was responding to, I was trying to keep it out of there just so that it doesn't sound like I'm still trying to tell Munchie not to go to college, because I don't give a shit what Munchie does. Like, I just am very anti-college, and am using this as a springboard to talk about
it, and I think that rubs people the wrong way in a sense. And the fact that there was a whole entire PCP episode kind of dedicated to the topic, which pushes it to, the forefront of what the fans are seeing. And I can understand why Vic, after having watched that podcast, because I was, like, listening into that podcast and had to leave. Because Conrad was drunk, and it was not...
Which podcast are we talking about?
The PCP podcast that you were on that basically devolved into...
That never happened.
Yeah, there was a PCP episode.
No, I wasn't on the episode about college, about Munchie going to college. I just wasn't even on it. You're thinking of something completely different. The one I was drunk on was the Deltarune episode.
No, I specifically
might have gone
remember...
on an anti-college rant in it somewhere, but that's
no,
not the
it wasn't,
one that people
it wasn't
are
the
talking
Deltarune
about.
episode. I think it was the one before...
Because what had happened...
No, it might have been the Deltarune episode, because that was when we were supposed to go and meet everybody out.
Okay, let me tell you the full story, because I know exactly how this happened. Because it was that there was a PCP episode where Munchie told everybody that he planned to go to college, and they had ripped on him, like, really heavily. And, like... But, not everybody had been against it. It was like, everybody was in different corners. But, like, Munchie already knew that I was very anti-college. And I had said something about, like, wanting to talk Munchie out of going to college on, like, a podcast or something like that. Like, offhandedly. So Munchie was under the impression, because he was coming over to our house, like, a week after this podcast happened. Mm-hmm. He was under the impression that we were going to end up having some huge long conversation where I was going to try to talk him out of going to college. And I was like, I have no reason to do that, because you clearly are already set in your ways, and like nothing I say is going to change how you feel, because you already know my argument. You already know why I hate college. But then, while he was at the house, it ended up coming up anyways, and so I gave, like, a long, passionate, drunken, anti-college rant for, like, an hour to Munchie. But, like, I kept saying throughout it, like, this is not me trying to convince you not to go to college. This is just me letting you know why I don't, like, respect it as a decision. Like, why, regardless of what's right for you or what you want to do, I just don't think that it is the best way for anyone, to make this decision unless they know exactly what they're trying to get out of it. You know?
And I mean, Munchie did specifically come to you and the PCP guys and asked for your opinions. It's not like you guys are... It's not like you're giving unsolicited advice, and he knows that you come from the school of thought where, hey, college didn't do anything for me, and I've made a career based on what I've done online, and you have done the same. You have made a difference. You have been putting out great content without the help of college.
And you've made a ton of money.
And like when Munchie came to our house, he was there with Ben and with Tom, who all went to college and were able to kind of like give their own perspective and enlighten him, because it's a big decision to go to school. And Munchie's like, he lives in California. He wants to go to the opposite side of the country. He wants to go to school in Boston, the same school his girlfriend goes to. He wants to go to art school.
Yeah.
And you can see why, like, there are many factors in this decision that you may want to to talk over with your friends.
Right.
And at the end of the day, it's kind of like, if you choose to go to school and kind of take a more professional route to your art,
Right.
you're going to have to sacrifice some of what you've done online, some of how you've met these people, like the projects that you've worked on with these people. That's going to have to kind of be cut back so you can pursue this endeavor. So it makes sense that, like,
right. This is why I was very like, look, you know, go to college if you want to, but like, I don't have the expectation that you're going to be able to work with us all the time, and that doesn't seem to be your intention. Like, I'm pretty sure he does want to go to college and make connections and shit, but like, the more connections you have, the less time you have for each of your connections. This is why I work with the PCP exclusively, because I don't like to work with people constantly. I prefer to work with people minimally. Like, when I want to do a collaboration, I want there to be somebody there who I can work with.
Yeah, but
who's talented and good.
People who also you can trust, not people who are connected to you through superficial means. Exactly. I'm not saying that the people you meet in college aren't going to be there to help you, but if you say something that, like, goes out of line with the way they think, like if you make a political statement, that person has every right to cut ties with you. Right. If you're working online, you can select the people you want to talk with, and if you have a message to bring to the table, if you have something you want to say, you can kind of get that perspective in. If you're trying to go professionally, all of that personality gets taken out of the account, and Munchie's somebody who, like, says
explosive amounts of personality.
And it's like, you can't make the same kind of stuff that you're making online right now if you choose to go down this path.
And I think that's kind of, in his mind, he's like, well, I don't want to make the same kind of stuff I've been making.
And that's fair. That's completely fine. But when Victor was kind of saying that people were growing out of the PCP and moving on to better things, I think that was a really, like, shitty way to say it. Because, first of all, he was talking about how Hippo left the PCP to go do something that, probably his degree helped him get, but it actually was a patron. Like, it's a connection that he made online. And
not to mention, he didn't even leave the PCP.
No,
he's just left his YouTube channel, and even then, he didn't leave it for the purpose of not making YouTube videos anymore. He just didn't want to continue the pursuit of a career in YouTube because he had never... Like I said in my video, it's really about what do you want to do.
Exactly.
And Hippo felt miserable whenever he tried to vie for success. And every time he had a big successful video, it just put pressure on him, and he ended up leaving. Like, every time he had a big success, he subverted it himself just by, getting too anxious about the way he runs his career and everything, and, like, wanting to do other things. And it's like, he has the opportunity to leave YouTube now. And so it's a good idea, but, like, it's not because he was running a, it's not because he couldn't have had a successful YouTube career. It's because the prospect of what it took to do that didn't end up being something he wanted to do.
It isn't what he wanted to do.
Right.
It's not that he's moving on to better things, because at the end of the day, being successful is being able to do the thing that you want to do and make enough money to sustain yourself doing what you want to do.
Right.
And, like, it's all a matter of perspective. It's not, I have a degree and get to work with big shots, I'm successful.
Yeah. I mean, I've said this many times, but, like, I've had tons of opportunities that I turned down because I'm just like, I don't, like, what about this is more valuable to me? Because, like, what a lot of people don't realize is that you don't really make that much money off of knowing lots of people. It's like, if you know people who will hire you, like, it's not about who you collaborate with or any of that bullshit. Like, doing high profile YouTube collaborations, for instance, like, all that is there for is to try to grow your sub count, is to try to get some of the other person's fans to come over to your channel, unless you're just trying to make a show with its own chemistry. Like, the PCP is just a show in and of itself, not so much a collaboration of, I mean, obviously it's a collaborative project, but it's not like a crossover video,
No.
Like, something like that exists so that those two people can, leech off of one another's fan bases and hopefully gain some new fans for themselves, especially if one of the people is smaller than the other guy. He obviously wants that, or it might be a bigger guy trying to help a smaller guy get over,
Yeah.
which I've done a bunch of times. So, like, yeah, like there's that kind of collaboration or crossover, but like that kind of shit is, I don't need to do that kind of stuff, and it doesn't usually benefit me that much, because like the appeal of me as an internet content creator is like to get deep into my shit. Like the people who, even if you're only watching main channel videos, like I have so fucking many of them, like, and a lot of people who are fans of me, they binged all those videos, they watched hours and hours of my content, and that is a type of, it's a certain type of creator who you don't just see what they're doing and go, oh, I'll subscribe to this because I could watch it once a week. You subscribe because you're like, oh my god, this guy's viewpoint is interesting and I want to hear him talk all the time, you know? And like, you're not going to get a sense of that from just a passing collaboration, you know? And I do it sometimes for something like The Dick Show just because I'm a huge fan of The Dick Show. It's like most of what I watch, you know? I don't go on there to promote myself like a lot of the guests on there do. I go on there to be a part of The Dick Show because I love it, you know? That's why last one I didn't even promote anything. I literally didn't even do a promotion like bit at the end.
Yeah, because you just wanted to be on the show.
Yeah. I just wanted to come on and talk about my dick because it seemed appropriate for what people had been talking about in the previous few episodes, you know? And I figured I could contribute to the conversation. And I had a great time. So, yeah, like, I'm not really interested in, like, you know, doing those kinds of things that a lot of people see as, like, oh, I gotta get all these connections so I can appear in all these people's videos. It's like, that's not really gonna give you long-term profits unless you find out who they know. Like, I got connections to, for instance, like Miles from Crunchyroll. I knew nothing about him before Crunchyroll Expo. He just invited me to come so that I could do a debate panel with Giguk because I think he thought that would be a good YouTube video afterwards. And like, I didn't know who he was or anything about him, but because I knew you know, Mother's Basement, and he was hanging around the guy.
Was this a Colosseum battle?
And like basically everybody else who was invited was somebody who works with Crunchyroll more closely than me. And just because I was there, I got to hang out with all those people and the guy, you know, Miles, who ran all that shit, who hired most of these people on. And so like, that's how I know. That's how I know the story. That's why I know why I wasn't hired to work at Crunchyroll, whereas a lot of people were. Because a lot of anime YouTubers got poached by Crunchyroll.
Yeah, which is kind of like, the stuff that you make in the digital sphere is just as valid and influential and has the potential to get you a job opportunity as stuff that you do
and
freelance
you don't
or
need
with
to be
people.
Big.
No,
Like,
there's
dude,
like Keiko Cat. Her videos are not that big, but now she like writes for Crunchyroll and has launched.
No, she doesn't just write for them. She like works on the back end.
Yeah, she's launched a career
you know?
for herself because of something that she's done on the digital space.
Yeah,
and like
you got like Canapa Effect, and you know, who's now Canapa Effect, who has like probably like 30k subs, and I know someone like Victor would just make fun of Canapa out of pocket because he's like, oh, that guy with the annoying voice
is like
who
living
overhypes
in
shit.
Japan now because of
he
of
lives
the
in
things
Japan,
that he's done.
interviews people who are like in the industry, you know, like has all these connections with like streaming platforms and shit. Like, yeah, he's a dork ass, but the dude has like, you know, he has a lot of opportunities because he talks about anime on the internet. And like, it's really funny because Victor might look at me as a baseline and be like, oh, being this level of famous or you know, doesn't make you make that much money or make you have that much success. But it's like, if you look at somebody else who has the same level I do and isn't going out of their way to do whatever they want, they're like kowtowing a little bit more, they're making more money than me and have more connections, you know? Like, if you look at when Mother's Basement was the same size as me, and he's bigger than me now, when he was the same size as me, he was making more money, and he had way more ad deals, you know? Because he took all of them. So, like, you can't look at my success even in terms of, like, what am I actually making?
Yeah, because you're not
because a lot of it is me turning down money.
Yeah, you don't really want that sort of success. Like, you're in it for your own reasons, and you're happy with a certain amount of money. It's not about trying to milk your content for the most it's worth. It's not about trying to be ad friendly. But there is that path available if you're looking for it. It's kind of like
I'm kind of an anomaly because like most of the people who have my mentality towards like I'm gonna do whatever I want, they either never make it to this point because they don't really work that hard, or they're people who are more content to live with less than I am.
Yeah.
But I think just because I grew up in like a kind of upscale, like not upscale environment, but like just that when I was a teenager, my dad had a lot of money, and I got used to a certain level of comfort that I like would like to uphold throughout my life. Where like I've been poor and it sucks, you know? Like when my family was broke, we didn't have enough food, you know? It's like living without enough food sucks balls, or living without heat sucks balls, you know? So it's like because I've seen like a certain level of shittiness, I'm like, I always want to live up to a certain standard of living, you know? And like I am willing to like go to a certain length to get enough money to have that standard of living, but I am like going to do it with the absolute least concession to what I don't want to do imaginable, you know? Like I'm constantly searching for that line. It's always like, how much of whatever I want can I do while still being able to meet the standard of living that I have for myself, you know? And navigating that line is basically my whole career. That is what I am up to. If one day I decided I needed to make a lot more money because I wanted to change my lifestyle in some major way, then maybe I would suddenly be a lot more interested in taking a path that I've been ignoring for a long time, you know? And it's not to say that I've definitely burned a lot of bridges with like the mainstream.
I'd say that like a lot of those paths aren't even not going to be available for you. Like you're not going to be able to write probably for Crunchyroll
not when I've talked so much shit about them.
And
after I made a 1 million view video called Dear Crunchyroll Stop, I do not think I'm going to write for Crunchyroll.
So we got to take a step back
soon.
Because Munchie is not an anime YouTuber. So like all of the stuff that we're talking about like doesn't really apply to Munchie.
Well, okay, what does apply to Munchie though is that if he wanted to be a successful YouTuber, it's almost like all he has to do is ask. Like, and this is true of anybody in the PCP, because it's not hard. Like, we all know how to do it. Literally, some of us have coached other people who have done it, you know? So it's like, if Munchie wanted to have a successful career on the internet as a content creator and like work in more of an industrious way, there would be an easy opportunity for that, you know? If he wanted to be like Devu does that. Devu is just my editor, you know? That is a fully industrious job to have within the online creative space. You just work for a guy, you know?
Yeah.
And like you just do what he tells you and make money off of it. And Devu
isn't that what you'd be doing if you went to college?
Right, exactly. That's what I'm saying. Is that, like, to go to college and go through the system and end up with a job doing, like, oh, I'm going to draw on someone else's movie, like Victor was saying. Like, oh, some people just want to draw, so they just want to draw on a Disney movie. Like, well, some people just want to edit, and they just want to edit my videos, you know? And, like, I could hire Munchie to do a full... Like, I could hire him on as an artist... You know, if I had the money, and the only way I'm going to make the money is by continuing to beef up, you know, my own career. Like, I couldn't hire him full time right now, but like, you know, if he was working as like a PCP hired collective artist, like constantly churn out iconography for us to build our brand off of, you know, like that would be hugely beneficial to everybody involved. And like, that's the kind of opportunities that could exist. You know, if all you want to do is draw for somebody, you know? I mean, Munchie's made shit tons of money off of commissions by doing that on fucking Twitter, you know? Like, how do you think he affords to fly all the time? Because he can mow a few yards and fucking like tweet, hey, I'm doing commissions for fucking $15 and I'll draw anything, because he can draw in like half an hour.
Freedom, he only had that freedom in the first place because he wasn't taking a traditional approach to his high schooling.
Right.
If he goes to college, that kind of lifestyle is not.
Again, I don't want to
really,
fucking talk about
and I don't
life too much.
Okay, I don't want to either. I'm just saying that like.
You're gonna smoke a fucking bong.
You're gonna smoke a bong hit, and while I'm like floundering, cause like I just. To me, it's always been a question of like what kind of opportunities does art school really present you. Victor was talking about how like his school didn't really have that great of equipment, and like he didn't get internships from college, and like I went to college and I have had internships. I have people, granted they're in other states, but if I wanted a job, I could go back to my former intern employers and say like, hey, I want to work here again and make a decent amount of money because I have those connections even without the degree. Like, you go to school, at the end of the day, what you're going for isn't the connections, because you can make those connections without going to college. You're going for the piece of paper, and what kind of like opportunities does art school really present really depends on what degree you're going for and what you're trying to do with it. And what Munchie has been doing up to now isn't the same thing as what he wants to go to school for. So, like, I really don't know. I stop. Well, he's smoking a bong, and I just was kind of taken aback by
the brazen,
the tone. I don't want to be like, oh, I'm tone policing. It's just like it sounded really fucking rude to talk to people that you used to work with. And like, I get why you'd be frustrated, because I went to college and I got something out of going to college, and I wouldn't want to tell somebody like, hey, I wouldn't want somebody to take the message out of what Conrad was saying as, hey, you shouldn't go to college, it's a waste of time, because there's times when college is the right path. There's times when college is like, it's able to present you a clear line with like an internship and a job afterwards, but you really have to know what you're going into it for. And Munchie has done a ton of research and knows what he's doing, but
the thing is that like I really see it as that there's two ways to go to college. You either go because there's something you specifically have in mind that you want to accomplish and college will facilitate that, or you go because you want to either learn specific skills or like try to figure out what you want to do. Those kind of people are gonna absolutely fail, and the ones who are just trying to pick up like a certain set of skills, you don't need college to do that. Like, if you want to go become a doctor, then it's like there's only one way to become a doctor. You have to go to college. There is no alternative route. There's no other way, unless you want to go to like, be a doctor in some like third world country or something where you can go, I don't know, without a
No, you still have to study medicine to practice medicine in any aspect. Even if you want to join like the Peace Corps and do something like that, you need a college
I don't mean
degree.
like that. I mean like, underground black market doctor. Like, if you want to be a doctor for the Yakuza, you might not need a degree,
I don't think there's like, I don't think people who are thinking about getting a degree are necessarily, willing to take jobs like that. I think that's for a certain type of person.
Yeah.
But that was also a really weird example, but...
Well, that's what I'm trying to say, is that, like, you basically have to get a degree if you want to be a doctor, unless you want to work for, like, the mob. Like, that's the only way you'd be able to be a doctor and not have a degree, is if you were working for some kind of, like...
I think you could just flat out say that you just need a degree to work in medicine.
Yeah.
I don't think you should be talking about the fucking mob.
Well, I'm not advising people to join the mob.
I know, but it just, like, it makes your argument retarded when you bring that.
Why?
Because, like, what are you talking about?
Okay, if you were someone who was trying to work as a doctor without having to go through the process of getting a degree, but you learned all of the things you need to learn to do it,
the thing about
and so you are capable of doing it, there are people who will hire you because you are cheap and you don't have a license and they want you to do something illegal. You know what I mean?
I know what you mean.
Where there's no records of it.
Why are we talking about this?
Because my point is simply that is the only
I'm getting
example.
so frustrated that I'm losing because you're talking about the mob and shit. It's like, yeah, there's a ton of jobs where, yes, you need to get a degree. If you want to go into, like, any type of engineering, if you want to become an architect,
right.
if you want to probably work for Disney and go through their internship program, yeah, the only path is through a degree. But that is not a lot of jobs.
Uh-huh.
If you're going to be a lawyer or a doctor, yes.
Yes.
I think it's fair just to say that.
Unless you're going to be like a black market
Stop.
Look, you have to cover your bases or else people are going to comment, oh, well, you don't technically have to go to college to do that job. You could be a fucking black market lawyer. Like, you know, like, technically it's true.
No, if you want to be a practicing lawyer, you have to pass the bar, and in order to pass the bar, you need a law degree.
Right. I mean, with
so
the case of a lawyer,
black
yes,
market lawyer.
There is no black market lawyer. There are black market doctors, though. But yeah, lawyer is just a better example, then, of someone who you need a degree to become a lawyer. Because they won't let you do it, right? Without passing the bar.
Even if somehow you could, like, represent people in court, nobody would pay for you if you don't have a law degree. It's just like...
Unless they just couldn't afford someone with a law degree.
But they have public defenders. They're people that have law degrees that they
That's
give people
true.
for free.
Yeah. Well, yeah. Well, you can't. I mean, you can't even do it anyway, so it's irrelevant. Like, you cannot represent people if you don't have a degree, right? I don't think you're allowed to just choose someone to represent you. You have to either represent yourself or choose a state defendant.
Yeah, you have to go to somebody who's in the bar, who's passed the bar.
So you literally cannot be a lawyer if you do not have a college diploma. So it's an even better example than
it might be different in certain countries, but again, it's completely irrelevant.
Yeah.
Because you can go to a lot of countries and do a lot of things without a degree.
But most people don't want to do that. Most people just want to stay in their country.
Yeah. I mean, I think that the video response that you gave to Victor was good.
Yeah.
And you covered a lot of bases, and you kind of gave Victor some more insight into things that, you know, he wasn't taking into account. Like...
Right. It was really weird how misinformed his like, that he was so vindictive over his old information, or like his badly researched information. And it's like, you would think that if he felt that strongly, he would have reached out to someone and said something. You'd think he would have left a comment or contacted me and been like, yo, your content's shit or something. Like, he's not really said anything anywhere about like, oh, the PCP is going to shit or something. And I don't think that's like a generally widely held opinion.
Battle because
like,
somebody was talking about black market doctors.
There definitely are people who are in the camp of like, oh, PCP's gone to shit, because like they're not getting whatever they really liked, you know, whatever they personally were into isn't really coming out anymore.
The podcast itself has not been as entertaining as it used to be. But the PCP members and the individual projects that each of them have been pursuing, I think has been getting better and better as time has passed. Like, if you want to say that the PCP is, like, moving on to better things, it might be that, like, the podcast isn't...
I don't even think there's anything wrong with the podcast.
No,
the
podcast is fine.
It's been exactly as popular and lucrative as it's ever been, so it's just kind of like, it's there. You know, like, because the way Victor was coming at it was like, oh, you guys aren't successful. And it's just like, the podcast is fine. Everything everyone is doing is fine. So, like, what's unsuccessful? It's like, Nate's making the most on his Patreon he's ever been. You know, he is planning to leave his regular-ass job soon. Victor made it out like Nate was being so mature by keeping his regular job when Nate's planning to leave it
Victor
soon.
Victor framed it as... Nate only got his job because of college.
Yeah.
When it was his job was sending him to college.
Yeah, Nate had a 2-year degree, but he didn't have a 4-year, and he hadn't finished his degree yet. But like, they basically, because his dad had connections to this guy who runs like a software company, he got Nate a job there, and they just trained him. They trained him for the job, and they like helped him to finish college. Like, basically, they required him to finish his... It's a job where you're supposed to have that degree, but he didn't have that degree. So they allowed him to finish his degree while working part-time at the job. And then once he had the degree, he could be hired on as a full-time employee. And so, like, yeah, college is tangled up in all this, but, like, it has nothing to do with how he got the job. It was purely that his dad is, like, best friends with the guy who runs this company, you know? That's why Nate got the job. It was pure nepotism, and he said so himself plenty of times.
That's how most
so it's
people
like Victor's
get jobs.
just comically misinformed about this, misremembered, you know?
It's just like working up the ranks. You can glorify it as much as you want.
Yeah.
Like, but at the end of the day, it's that kid's choice, and he came to the PCP, guys who get their money online. Most of them people who shit on college because their experience, like, they didn't get what they paid for. They ended up in debt, which is kind of what happens to most people that go to college, and is something, if you're being realistic about, like, college is really expensive, and it is something, it's an investment that doesn't always pay off, and usually doesn't. Like, I know people who... I wanted to go to grad school and study political science and communications because I wanted to be somebody who wrote speeches. When I was working at Target, my direct manager, somebody who wasn't really making that much more than me, who just, like, kind of managed the front end of the store, had gone to Syracuse University for grad school for political science. This was exactly what I was, like, planning on doing, and she was working at Target.
Right.
Like, so... when that happened, it kind of just, like, shattered a lot of my dreams.
Yeah.
In a sense. Like college...
even if I went back and finished this degree, this could still be me.
Yeah, and, like, an art degree, there's not really that much you can do with it. It's not like he's going to school for a STEM degree where it's like, oh, yeah, you need this degree to do what you want to do. It's like, you are already making art. You don't need a degree to make the art. You don't need the degree to make friends. College is a good place to learn skills and to make connections, but you can also do that without college.
I just don't know why you'd want to make connections with people who are in college. Like, college art is fucking lame. Like, when you go to those college campuses and they have all the art that's all hung up everywhere, it's just, like, weird, stupid installations of bullshit. It's all self-celebratory and masturbatory. It's all look at how artsy we can be. It's like, none of it has a fucking message. None of it's seen by a general populace because these people aren't posting this shit on the internet. Like, you're making art for your college professors, for your campus, art that is going to be displayed there, and maybe you will make some friends who put on their own little art shows so them and their friends can appreciate each other's shit, because none of them is just good enough to have a legitimate career. And, like, if you want to be good enough that you're fucking posted in a museum or something, like, well, have fun practicing for the next fucking 10 years or coming up with a really unique style, but hey, you could just post your shit online. And people already like it.
Yeah, like the new Pokemon movie, Detective Pikachu, all the designs came from that DeviantArt guy.
Right.
Who, like, made realistic Pokemon, and now he is working for, like, major...
It wasn't all him, but he was one of, like, the 3 designers on the movie, and some of his designs were in there.
Yeah, it was all, like...
Literally
it was
the
all
guy
internet
who
designs.
makes realistic Pokemon DeviantArt posts.
Yeah, and there's lots of people in game design and in art who have... become
tons of fucking
successful.
people, because when you see a cool ass, look at Paul fucking Robertson. Holy shit, that guy just does cool pixel porn. Like, that was what he was doing, was cool pixel art pornography, basically. Weird shit where girls grow dicks and fuck each other, and vanillux with tits. And, like, that guy, not only did he get hired onto a ton of video games to do the art for those games, the biggest one being that fucking, what was it called with the guns? Victor knows what I'm talking about because he fucking played it. He did the Scott Pilgrim game. That was probably his biggest one, his breakthrough hit, was he did the artwork for the Scott Pilgrim video game, so tied to a major IP. Then he gets hired on to do, like, several episodes of Gravity Falls. He's done shit for probably Adventure Time and, I think Steven Universe? He did a bunch of, like, cartoons and shit. He does, like... He just gets hired on for his Pixar. He did tons of animations for Adult Swim. It's just like a guy who made cool, distinctive pixel art on the internet is now hired by, like, everybody to do random work for shit, you know? Because he just has a cool aesthetic. Everyone wants that. If people see your shit and they think it looks good, they will want to hire you in the arts. Like, that's why we already hire these people, you know?
Yeah.
Like, that's why I think Munchie was paid to design all the graphics on the PCP Patreon. I've never paid him for doing all my avatars, but he did, like, all my avatars other than the one I paid Ben for, you know? He just draws me a lot. So, although the last avatar that he did, the one I'm using right now, was actually designed for a t-shirt. But I just, like, retooled it, and then he redrew it, and then, I'll probably have to pay him for it if I use it to make, any clothing. Yeah. What you thinking about now? I think I just talked for a while about Paul Robertson.
I think that, you know, there's reasons and reasons not to go to college. And there's no reason to be a dick.
Yeah.
Either way, either choice you make, there's no reason to be mean.
Yeah.
But it's like, if somebody's coming to you and asking you about your opinions, you should give your honest opinions and your experience, because that's what that person's, like, trying to get out of you. And,
yeah.
like, at the end of the day, I just want Munchie to do what makes him happy.
Yeah.
But you should get your story straight before you come swinging at the PCP and saying they all suck, when it's like...
When Endless War is, like, super big for Ben and Munchie, you've got Nate doing his Smash videos, you've got Hippo doing animation work on top of doing, like, his webcomic, so he's, like, still doing internet content in a pretty, you know, big capacity, because I'm sure his webcomic is big with the Endless War people, because I think he's a big part of it. You've got, you know, Tom's Game making incredible progress. You've got the I Am Games thing that me and Tom have both been doing, which is making us a lot of money on Twitch. You've got... who am I missing? Devu just put out a fucking video game.
Yeah.
I don't know if Mage has done anything. I don't think she's done anything recently. Am I missing anybody?
I don't think so.
Jesse's been putting out content again. He put out something incredible the other day, didn't he? Wasn't there, like, a recent really amazing Jesse video?
The fall video is, like, one of the best videos I've ever seen in my life. The one where he does the countdown for fall.
Yes.
That one was great.
Yeah.
Also, the episode he was talking about, like, I don't know if that was... Actually, I think that was an older video that you had shown me, where he was talking about people and their loud-ass toys, like leaf blowers.
That was recent.
Yeah, I think about that every day.
That was a fucking awesome video. Fucking
every
Sound
time I hear a
Criminals.
lawnmower,
Sound
I
Criminals
think
was
about
a dope-ass video.
Yeah. And, like, it's cool that Victor is also making progress in his career. And
you know, it's like the difference between the N64 and the GameCube. Let me tell you. Because...
Oh, no.
This is going to be a rant, because I've been studying the GameCube. And I make this big point in my Luigi's Mansion video about how the jump from the N64 to the GameCube was not really a huge leap in what you could do in a game. It was only a leap in, like, the technical specificity of what you could do. That, like, you could do more precise aiming, more precise jumps, like, things looked better, you know, and, like, it's up to a certain standard where it was like graphics never really needed to get better than this to be enjoyable in 3D, you know? And, like, that's why I don't think Nintendo really pursued graphics as their next step forward. They went like, oh, the Wii, we're gonna make it so you could do completely different shit, because now you've got a totally different control scheme. And people were like, I don't care, I want to play the same video games I've been playing since the late 90s with better graphics, you know? So, like, I think that when you look at that step up from N64 to GameCube, GameCube was not a great selling console. And the PlayStation was a much bigger deal. The jump from PlayStation to PlayStation 2 was more of a leap, because the PlayStation had this weird assy quality to it. And the PS2 smoothed that out, you know? But, like, the difference between N64 and GameCube, it's like, you know, obviously a huge graphical leap, but the N64 already had a consistent 3D world, and, like, if you had played Super Mario 64, you'd already seen, like, the height of what we can do with jumping in 3D. Like, the GameCube was only ever going to make that marginally better. And so Super Mario Sunshine, even though it's a better game overall, in terms of, like, just being more polished, having more ideas, you could argue that Mario 64 is better for any number of, like, flow-based reasons, or just being easier to return to, or maybe you just don't like the Flood Pack at all. But, like, Mario Sunshine should be, like, on the surface, it looks like it's just a step up. But it's just, like, there's such a huge difference between playing your first 3D game ever and playing a better version of it, you know? Like, for mostly aesthetic and minor technical reasons. And this is what I think is what makes people think that the PCP has gotten worse, or that any content creator has gotten worse, when they have not really changed that much. They've just gotten marginally technically better. And so, like, when you watch, let's say, an Endless Jest video for the first time, and I experienced this back in the like late 2010s or whatever, I guess like 3 years ago, where, like, when he did his initial pony videos, it was so, like, mind-blowingly good that, like, it felt like nothing he did afterwards could top it, you know? And, like, he kept trying to do these big series and stuff, like, always trying to find the next peak. But in the end, the videos that were the most successful and the most fun were just where he just focused on making a good video.
It's just killing
you know?
me. I hate this game.
And
the
so
battle's going too fucking long.
I think that a lot of his newer videos are better than his older ones, because I've gone back and watched them all, and, like, I think that he's just gotten better as a performer, better as a writer, better as an editor, you know, better at, like, making his visuals look sharp and on point, better music choices, you know. So it's just, like, I think his videos, in a technical sense, are better than they were before. They're just not groundbreaking like they were before, you know. And, like, I think that there was a time when, especially because of Jesse and his involvement, the PCP was seen as somewhat groundbreaking, in that there was a time when Jesse was doing some of the densest video content on the site that had, like, this intense meta-narrative. There was a time when I was, like, the only guy doing long-form analytical videos about shit. Like, not even just about anime, but really about anything. It wasn't commonplace, you know? It was seen as, like, a special event, and me and Tom were trying to, like, emulate just the classics in that regard. Like, we weren't trying to... It wasn't, like, a cultural phenomenon to make long-ass videos, you know? The way that it is now. So, like, that's not impressive anymore, even though we're still doing it. It's no longer like, oh my god, an hour-long video in 5 parts? It's like, you expect that, you know? So it's just like, oh, Digi made another hour-long video in 5 parts. I guess it's good, but nothing's ever gonna top the old one. And then you go watch the old one, and you're like, okay, well, like, I understand why this is... Like, you still think it's funny, and you're nostalgic for a lot of the jokes, but, like, there's a lot of just dead air, and, like, parts where the delivery's not that good, and, like, whole segments that you had forgotten were even in there, you know? And you're just like, well... But nobody does that. Nobody goes back and rewatches the old stuff except for me. Because I always want to see the chronology. I always want to know how things are going. Is this getting better or worse?
I mean, I still think people revisit a lot of your old videos, and, like, you can tell because your old videos get more and more views over time.
Lots
like,
of
I
people,
do think people
go back and watch them.
Go back and stuff.
No, I'm talking about in my... Like, it's different between the people who go back and watch them and the people who complain about things having gotten worse, because they're not necessarily the same crowd, you know? Like, I do think that there's a lot of people who go back and rewatch my old shit, but they don't generally tend to be the people who are like, oh, Digibro's boring now. Like, those tend to be the people who haven't been even keeping up with everything I'm actually doing right now, you know? It's usually someone who's like there was recently a dude complaining, I think in my Patreon, where he was just like, you know, oh, I don't think you've made anything good since like August or whatever. And I was like, I don't know why you think that. And he was like, well, why did you have to make the Steins Gate videos? And I was like, because there's a good, I wanted to. Like, I'm a huge fan of Steins Gate. The new show was coming out. I was already planning to do a video about Steins Gate. And then I went, let me put this on hold until Steins Gate 0 is done. And then I can talk about both. And then I did. But it was apparent that he didn't like or care about Steins Gate, so he had just not really watched it. Like, he'd watched some of part 1, thought it was a boring cash-in video, that I was just trying to, like, shit on a popular show for the sake of it, so he just clicked off and then didn't watch the rest of the series, you know? And he basically admitted to that. So, it's just, like, that's the kind of times when people are like, Digi's content's gone downhill. It's like, well, are you watching it? Like, did you get to the end where you get the live action segment and like it rounds up all the stuff, you know? Like, did you watch them as they came out and like feel the flow of the narrative, you know? And
Where's the Poca Center? Is it here?
It's just like,
if anybody's wondering what I'm doing, I'm just like trying to find a shop because I don't remember where any of the shops are, and I want to buy potions because it's really annoying to play this game and not have potions, and I can't find the fucking shop. And this whole conversation's giving me anxiety because throughout your entire career, like, there's always a point where somebody's like, oh, this is the worst content you're making, and it's just like, I don't know, man.
Someone's always going to be like that. I mean, people have been like that
people
for
have
me
been
my
like
whole
that
career.
Your whole career.
Yeah.
And
like, I got my start on my anime blog, and I changed my style a ton of times on there. And so, like, I was already used to the idea of, like, how your audience will wax and wane as you shift styles, and that they really will only turn up for shit that they already care about, unless you are what they already care about, you know? And, like, there are some people who go through a phase where they really care about the shit you're doing, and then they fall out of it because, you know, there's maybe you're inactive for a little while, and they just kind of forget that they're supposed to be into you. I mean, I understand, because this happens to me too. Like, if I catch up on anything,
when you're too poor, you could only buy one potion. I hate this game. Oh no. Maybe I shouldn't have bought so many Ultra Balls.
When I catch up on anything, like, if I have to wait for the next one, I will fall out of it. You know what I mean? Like, if I try to read manga, like, I caught up to Bleach one time, and I was like, oh man, Bleach is really sick. I'm enjoying it a lot. And then, like, I tried to read it weekly, and I lasted, like, 2 weeks, and I have never gone back, you know? Because, like, it's just very easy to lose that connection that you had with something if you change enough or move on enough in the coming period. And then if you try to just dip your toes back into it, it's not the thing you remember, because you have to be fully engaged to be having that experience, you know? You're not going to see the full picture unless you're continuing to participate every step of the way. And so it's like, you know, not to say that it can't ever be frustrating to do that because of something, the way the creator's attitude is towards the work. Like, it could be that you as a fan become exhausted by the way that the creator takes their narrative. But it's like, if you stop participating in the narrative, then you're never going to be enjoying the bits of it that you're consuming, because you've lost touch with it, you know? And, like, I definitely know there are people who've done that with my content plenty of times, because it can happen very quickly. Like, I've seen people get very passionately into something for like 3 months and then just be totally uninterested by the end of that 3 months, you know, because they change something about their perspective. Like, especially people who get involved with SJW cliques. Like, I've seen kids who got really into my content and then they started dropping like SJW buzzwords and then disappeared, you know, because they started telling me about how something I said was problematic, and then they realized that they couldn't be a fan of me anymore, you know? It's just like, people are fickle as fuck, and, you know, even from your own friends, you have to expect that, because if they're not keeping enough contact with you, or they're not keeping track of what you're up to, they just flanderize you in their mind. They just think of you as continuing to do the thing that you were doing the last time they looked, you know? It's just like, oh, last time I checked, it had been a month since Ben put out a comic, so therefore Ben's not even working right now. But then, like, maybe a week later he puts out the comic, but you didn't check then. So then 2 months later, you're like, Ben's not even working on his comic. It's like it came out 3 weeks ago, you know? Or, like, you know, he was working on, I don't know if Victor knows about Beastcapades, you know? Or it's like, yeah, there wasn't a new chapter of the existing comics, but a whole other comic existed in this time that just happened to have a weird kind of launch that if you weren't paying attention to Twitter, you wouldn't notice, you know? Or like, and granted, you know, some of this is just the obliqueness of the internet and how difficult it is to promote anything that's not a fucking YouTube video, which is why we all do YouTube videos, because they're so much easier to get to someone's feed.
Speaking of YouTube, because I'm really bored of this conversation, let's talk about some shit that's been going on YouTube, some channels being taken down because I'm
sorry that I bored you.
It's fine. It's just like I don't really know how to interject myself in this conversation because at first it was kind of like I just wanted to respond to why I like didn't really like the way that
I'm sorry.
Something
I feel like
was
I've gotten
said.
into talking epic level shop.
And no, that's just happens. Like you go on a roll and you can't shut up.
Yeah.
And you just took a giant bong hit, so I kind of expected it. And also, this game is infuriating. Because I don't play it like I'm not constantly playing this game. Like I play it like once every other week or so.
Yeah.
So I don't really know like how much money I have or like not really paying attention to that because I'm trying to pay attention to what you're saying, and it kind of is just like I'm not really good at this, huh?
At what? The game?
At any of this.
You're doing fine. What are you talking about?
I'm just frustrated.
You seem really frustrated.
Yeah, and
Maybe you should take a bong hit.
I don't want to smoke weed anymore.
Yeah, do you want to talk about that?
It makes me I don't know. I feel like I'm not in the right headspace to smoke weed, and I might never be. So
well,
like it's fun to do if it's something that's just fun, but like I'm not going to smoke it every day like you do. So
yeah.
Like
I don't think I will do this for
no, I don't think so either, but like you enjoy smoking it as like all day every day when I have it, and for me it's like I like to do it if I'm gonna like have a good time, like if I like have friends over or like to kind of just unwind, but I don't really need that often. So I don't know.
Is this it? Are we continuing the story?
What do you mean?
I don't know. I thought you were like lost or something. You were talking about how frustrating it was.
No, what has been happening is the next part of the game is this Colosseum where you have to beat a bunch of trainers gauntlet style.
Oh.
I've beaten the first trainer, and every time I get to the second trainer, I lose because I suck, and I'm not really paying attention to what's going on, and I'm trying to pay attention to what you're saying, but it's difficult to do both at once because this game takes forever because the cutscenes, the animations for the battles are so long that you literally forget what move you've been using by the time they're finished. And I just want this game to be over.
You're having a legendary moment as a Let's Player right now. Every Let's Player has their first I fucking can't take this anymore meltdown at some point.
I'm not trying to have a
gameplay.
meltdown. I just every time I go into one of these Let's Plays, I have this idea like, oh, I want to have the right opinions. I want to, talk at the right times. I want to entertain people. I want to be good at this game. I want to play the game right. I also want to be listening to what you're saying. And, I get frustrated when I feel like I wasn't able to say what I wanted to say without sounding like a bitch. Because I feel like every time I say something, I sound like a bitch.
I don't think you sounded like a bitch at any point.
I don't know. I just constantly... thinking about...
You have to remember that what you were responding to was Victor sounding like a total fucking dick. Like, he literally sounded like a fucking asshole.
Like, I feel like I've at least conveyed enough of how I feel to say, like, hey, some of the things you said were out of line. I don't want to beat you up. I don't want to constantly just, like, go on and on about how you're not doing things right or whatever, because, like, that's what I didn't like about how he phrased it. So now I just kind of feel like I'm beating myself up because I suck at this game. And I don't know.
It's a complex whirlwind of emotions doing a Let's Play.
It's called PMS.
No one understands.
It really is the worst.
Like, no, it's Let's Plays they really do have a strong effect on you, because if you're doing one for long enough, it is a narrative. There is a narrative to the way you've been playing, to the way that people have been responding to the way you've been playing, to what you're trying to accomplish in the game. And, like, that's all just, like, a meta layer above you just trying to do a podcast, basically. Like, so, and you see this in basically any long-running Let's Play series. It'll always come to a point where it's like, you're trying to juggle too many fucking balls at once, especially as the game gets harder. And, like, the game is expecting you to be giving it your full attention. Like, it's designed that way. It's not designed for you to simultaneously do a podcast while trying to play, So, like...
That's why a lot of people, like, either cut Let's Plays to the most interesting bits they're doing.
Yeah.
Or they... commentate
or they're more reactive
over it,
to the game.
Or, just reactive to the game. And, like, to actually have a podcast with the game going on in the background, like, you need somebody who actually can play the game.
Right.
And I consider myself to be somebody who's, like, fairly alright at Pokemon, but I don't like double battles. Yeah. I, like, again, like, I really only am more of, like, a first and second generation player.
Yeah.
So, and all of my current knowledge of Pokemon is, like, after the physical special split, so trying to keep that in mind also. It's just like, this is like the least fun way to play Pokemon, in my opinion, because I don't like double battles. The game goes on, like, the battles go on too long, and it's just like, I don't know. It was a mistake to think that I could do both at once, and I feel bad for the audience that has to
I think you are doing a great job of decompressing your feelings into a podcast that expresses something about the medium of the art that you're creating at the moment. So it's interesting to me. Like, I've never heard anyone break it down quite this way before, and it's I'm really enjoying it, because, like, I've watched a lot of Let's Plays, and, like, especially Game Grumps, and there's always this kind of tenor of, it starts off being about the game more so because you're excited about it, it's new, it's interesting, there's things to say. As it goes along, it becomes more of a podcast, it becomes more, we're telling stories about whatever's going on, sometimes if you're playing, like, a long, like, Zelda game or something, some kind of long adventure game, it's just going to become mostly story driven.
Yeah, and, like, I think that's really cool about Vic and Hope is that, like, Vic is really good at being able to play the game and
no, he's not.
Talk.
It's fucking miserable to watch him play. I fucking hate watching the Breath of the Wild gameplay. I hate that they play Breath of the Wild. It is the worst game to watch. Like, I feel the total opposite about what you're saying right now. Victor will literally just be trying to do one segment for the whole fucking episode. And he'll, like, not really be... Like, when he starts ranting, Victor takes a hand off of the controller when he talks. Like, when he starts ranting a whole lot, he'll just take his right hand off, but he'll just be running around with the left thumbstick. So a lot of the times, he's just kind of running in circles and talking, or he's jumping around, but he doesn't really know where he's going. Or he's just, like, the game is boring to watch because it takes so long to make progress. So, like, they've done, like, 56 fucking episodes, and every time I watch it, it looks like he's doing the same thing. The game looks incredibly boring.
Breath of the Wild?
Yeah, it seems like Skyrim, basically, with better controls.
It just seems like a game that, like, leads well to having sort of a podcast over it, because it's kind of just, like, a chilled out game.
I think the best ones that we've done,
and this one, like, when I play this game, everybody criticizes how I play, and, like, not that it doesn't make the game more fun, but it, like, I want to be good at the game, but I also don't want to exploit glitches.
Yeah.
Like, I just want to play the game how it's meant to be played. I don't want to have to grind all of the time. And, like, I don't know.
People were telling us to just tape down the walk button, and your Pokemon will eventually...
Yeah, and I mean...
level up or whatever.
And I don't take any of that like too seriously. I don't get upset when people say that and stuff. But like, nobody's saying that Vic sucks at the game. Like, so.
Is that true?
I don't know. When I read the comments on his stuff, it's like a response to the.
Because nobody watches the game. Because the game is insanely boring to watch. I think it's just understood, and that's why they don't have a lot of views. Like, the view counts on those videos have been depreciating because of the fact that Breath of the Wild is fucking boring. And, like, personally, like, I have a big problem with Vic and Hope as a Let's Play to fill my time with, because, like, I used to watch lots of Let's Plays to fill my time when I was eating. And, like, Game Grumps is consistently funny because they do not allow any silence. They're always trying to bounce from joke to joke. It's just a really well-made Let's Play show. That's why it was so popular. Two Best Friends Play, like you said, they cut down to only the most entertaining parts. You can watch the long-form Let's Plays, but, like, YMS, he streams games and then he cuts them down to the funniest bits. Like, because most people can't be entertaining just talking nonstop and not editing it at all, you know? And Jesse will do edited ones, he'll do ones where he does voiceover. The only ones that he leaves up that are just like him going and going is if he does manage to talk the whole time, and he talks about a really eclectic set of subject matters, so they're always interesting because you never know what you're going to hear about. Digi Bros was successful because, and it wasn't even that successful, but like it was able to have an audience because we just nonstop wall-to-wall talked, but also we played games that were kind of fun to watch. We played like Dark Souls and all the other Zelda games. Basically the Souls games and the Zelda games were the best playthroughs because those are the ones where it's like a game where you're consistently making progress and also the conversation flows naturally. And they would usually get more bogged down and boring if we weren't really making progress or if it wasn't fun to watch the game. And so Breath of the Wild for me, it's like if I just want to sit down and eat a sandwich and watch Vic and Hope for 40 minutes, like I can't really watch that game. It's boring to watch, you know?
Yo, rip to Mumkey's gaming expedition.
Yes, R.I.P. to every Mumkey channel.
So what happened with Mumkey is like he lost the two other channels that he made to put his content up on, and one was the gaming channel, and like that
sucks.
Like his gaming content was like my favorite stuff that he did.
Yeah.
So it's really sad to like lose all that history.
I mean, there was a high point where, like, Mumkey was one of my favorite content creators because I watched all of his shit and he made a lot.
Yeah.
Like, there was a time when he was, like, a human content machine type of figure. And, like, the gaming expedition, because it originally had Manimal and, like, then the fucking...
I don't know what to do anymore with this game because this is going to be, like, the 4th time that I've... like challenged this dude.
Are you about to lose?
Yeah. Unless somehow I can maybe I can take out Sneasel in the next turn, but I really have to pee. And
yeah.
I hate the world.
We don't have to finish this game if you just get sick.
Oh
of
no,
it.
there's a mighty. Oh my. Yeah. Oh no.
Like if you.
No,
literally
I want to
get sick
finish
of
the game
Colosseum,
because I don't want to be a quitter. You know.
I don't really care that much.
I've never beat this game as a kid, so
yeah.
I
mean,
want to beat the
obviously
game.
for good reason. It's a terrible game.
If I wasn't talking or like trying to pay attention to what you were saying, I'd probably do better.
Yeah, but that's like, why would you be playing the game if not for a Let's Play?
No, there'd be no reason to play this game for fun, because it wouldn't be fun.
So
but I want to beat it sheerly as an autistic Pokemon fan.
Okay.
So,
well, I mean, if you really, really want to beat it, then, I mean, if you want to do it off screen because you think it'd be easier that way, like, you could do that.
No.
Because, like, I don't think it's your fault that this is
difficult.
difficult.
No, it's my fault. It's my fault.
How is it your fault?
Because I suck at the game.
You can't... Anybody would suck at the game if they were trying to talk and play the game at the same time and weren't playing it consistently.
I have to be like Chugga Conroy.
Who the fuck is Chugga Conroy?
He's a Let's Player.
I've heard that guy's name, but he sounds like a gay boy.
He's a Let's Player that, like, every time a Pokemon shows up, he'll, like, show, like, all the stats of the Pokemon and talk about how viable each Pokemon is competitively and, like, which guys are the best guys to have on your team and stuff. It's very thorough.
But his name is Chugga
But he's
Conroy.
also a tool. I'm not a big fan of Chugga, but, like, he made a Pokemon Colosseum Let's Play when I was a kid that I watched.
How young were you? You said when you were a
I
kid?
was probably like 15.
How is that even possible? It's like 9 years ago.
What do you mean?
Like,
I'm just saying that,
there
like...
hasn't been Let's Plays on the YouTube for 9 years. It's what? That would be like 2009?
I was probably like 15 or
2007.
16, so yeah, there were Let's Plays on, like...
Let's Plays didn't come to YouTube till like the 2010s.
What?
Yeah.
No!
You might have to... I'm gonna look it up.
There's been Let's Plays before that, before, like, you did Let's Plays.
I didn't do Let's Plays until like 2015.
Let's Plays have been around on YouTube forever.
Dude, okay, Let's Plays originally began on the Something Awful forums as text posts in the late 2000s, and then they migrated, because people started doing, like, video components to them, eventually people started commentating over them, but they didn't, like, become a cultural phenomenon until, like, 2010 or 2011. Like,
Okay, hold this for a second.
Game Grumps
play the
started in
game.
2012, and they were, like, 2
Play the
years
game.
late into the trend.
I want to show you.
I mean, it's possible that Chugga Conroy was doing those videos before the title of Let's Play was really a thing, unless he was like one of the first Let's Players and I didn't realize.
Alright.
I have no idea what the fuck I'm doing. Also, the
Well-
controls are fucking ass.
Tell me about it. Okay, I'm going to the first like Let's Player that I ever really
You're
watched
like criticizing
seriously
yourself when you're
was
playing a version of
Slowflake.
this game where you can't even like
It
fully
doesn't-
tilt your controller.
It doesn't matter that much. Okay.
It's kind of a big
You're
deal.
playing Pokemon, so all you have to do is hit the moves. You can even use the D-pad. Alright, let's see
This is how hard you are on yourself.
Not even hard on myself. Okay, his Pokemon Red Let's Plays are the first ones I watched. And
When are
let's
they
see
from?
let's see the date. I found his channel. 2008.
2008. So holy shit.
And
That's
this was
old as
this is
fuck.
labeled as a Let's Play, and this was
It
like
does say
during
Let's
the
Play.
Let's Play craze.
That's fucking
So that was
crazy.
like when,
Well, that
and I
just means
mean,
he's like one of the first Let's
and
Players.
I mean PewDiePie and people like that were doing Let's Play-ish content before that.
Mm-hmm.
So Let's Plays have been around for a while. Like PewDiePie has been, it's really old. Let me look at when PewDiePie started YouTube.
Oh shit, I think I just started this tournament again.
Play it.
Oh no, this woman is fucking hideous.
Yeah, all the character designs are really bad.
Why is she so terrible? My name is Jomas. Bodybuilder Jomas.
When did he start YouTube?
PewDiePie.
Maybe he did start in 2010.
That's what I thought.
Yeah, but I mean, like,
And that's when like the craze really caught on. Like Chugga Conroy was, if he was doing it in 2008, he was probably doing it as like part of the first wave to leave Something Awful and to do it on YouTube in the first
but
place.
I've been watching Let's Plays for that long. I just
That's
want you to
crazy.
know. Like,
It's really crazy that you've been watching Let's Plays since
I'm gonna go to the bathroom.
2008. I would not have even heard of a Let's Play in 2008. Let's play X Play. Next time on X Play, Adam Sessler and Morgan Webb will suck the same dick at the same time. Who will make it come? Vote now and affect the ending. No one of my finest enemies has spoken as you to me. Sailors. I hate bridges. Napoleon Bonaparte. These are all the X-Play memes that I remember. if anybody doesn't get this joke of what I'm doing here, what's going on. I just spoiled it for you. I fucking have no idea what I'm doing in this game.
Alright, I'm back.
I think I'm using psychic attacks against a Pokemon that's resistant to psychic.
Give me the controller. Yeah. So Let's Plays have been going on for a while. I don't know why we were necessarily talking about that, but...
you were talking about Chugga Conroy and watching old Pokemon Let's Plays. And,
yeah.
Like, comparing yourself to famous people.
Just, like, my standards are high. And that's why, like, I'm hard on myself. When I talk about anime, I'm always doing it with you, somebody who always has something controversial to say about a show, somebody who has a lot of opinions. And, like, the truth is that I don't have as many opinions as you. Yeah. Like, I make weird connections to things, and, like, I have different
I don't
values.
have as many opinions as I express. I just come up with things to say so that I have more to say.
Exactly.
You know.
Like, and it's really interesting because on the Finisher Fails, like, the one we did about Piano no Mori, it was like an hour long?
It was like 55 minutes.
And it's crazy
I read a comment
to
that said, I'm happy to see May contributing more to the discussion on that episode.
I had thoughts about that show.
Exactly.
Because we watched all of it.
Really
but sometimes
good. You know how to do it.
We watch 20 minutes of a show or like 15 minutes of a show that we drop.
Yeah.
And we both decided to drop it, or maybe like, because we're going to drop a show if Connor doesn't want to watch it. If I want to watch a show or I'm more curious about it, like Camp Yuru, which I never got around to watching because I don't get paid to watch anime.
We put that on
but I specifically said, like, this isn't a drop for me. Yeah. And Precure, like, I'm still watching it actively, even though Conrad dropped it. Like, I watch shows that we have watched on Finish or Fail and have dropped. Like, I continue to watch them. Just because we decide to drop the show doesn't necessarily mean that, like...
That you don't finish it. Yeah.
That I don't finish it. But it doesn't mean that I have a lot of positive things to say about something. It's just something might appeal to me more. And it's, like... It's a totally different way to consume media. And... It's fun, and I like doing Finish or Fail with you, but sometimes it's like scraping the barrel.
That's how it feels for me, too.
Yeah, and
I just will do that for the views.
So, whenever I'm doing one, I feel really awful, because it's like, geez, I don't have that many opinions or ideas about this show that, quite frankly, I don't think it's saying much.
Yeah.
Like, it's made to appeal to a certain crowd. It follows
You're basically
tropes.
Breaking down what is Finish or Fail right now. I mean, you have to understand that it's a funny show because it doesn't have a massive viewership, but it has a sizable one for being a show that is as easy as it is to do, and that gives me the opportunity to justify marathoning all the shows on the way towards the ending, right? Because, like, if I want to make a top 10 anime of the year list, I am always going to watch every show that came out that year. So... you know, if I had to do that much anime watching just for one video, it wouldn't be worth it because it's like that one video is not going to get a shit ton of views.
This is why I'm getting my ass kicked. Is because if your Pokemon faints in a battle, it's not getting revived. No. Like, it's Gauntlet style.
Right.
And, like, I had kind of thought that was the case, but I hadn't really ever noticed.
Yeah. That's hilarious.
Or prepared for it.
You just need to bring revives.
I thought that I was just like, I don't have any money to buy revives. So...
Oh boy. Is this the last, like, battle of the game? Like, is this what you have to do to win, or what? Is this, like, supposed to be mega hard?
Well... I mean, this is, like, the end. This is probably the equivalent to, like, the Elite Four.
Right. So this is, like, the ending, basically.
There's some stuff after the final boss, but, like, yeah.
So, so it's not unreasonable that this is, like, hard. Because it is the final thing.
I mean, the fact that it's, like, Gauntlet style.
Yeah.
Like, shadow Pokemon battles where all the Pokemon are, like, way stronger than you, and... Yeah, I think it's supposed to be difficult, but, like, everything in this game is, like...
A pain in the fucking ass. What was I talking about before I brought
You're
that?
talking about breaking down Finish or Fail and why you like to do Finish or Fail.
Well, yeah, just basically that if I had to do one video for watching that much anime, it would not be worth it for the view count or the monetary benefit. However, if I can justify it by constantly coming up with something brief to say about those shows, because there is like a select group of people who are just interested in hearing what I have to say about basically every show. Not so much that they individually want to hear my thoughts on every single one, but that there are certain shows they want to hear my thoughts on. And that encompasses most shows. Some of it is shit that nobody gives a fuck about. If I give like a review to a show that's like 3-minute episodes and only like a couple hundred people watched it, and I give it like a 1-minute review, that's just to pad the video, you know? Like, that's just to offer, like, to be complete and talk about every single thing that I checked out. But like, nobody cares. Now, if I watch something that's obscure and I end up really liking it and I go on for a while, it's a good recommendation video. You don't even really have to pay attention to what I say. As long as you hear, oh, this obscure show that I didn't watch is good enough that Digibro liked it, that's a good enough reason for that video to exist, right? And then you've got high-profile shows that I don't like. These are the ones that people really come to Finish or Fail for. People want to know, why did Digibro not like this high-profile show, or why did he like it in the rare event that I do, you know? Like, wow, I can't believe Digibro actually liked this high-profile show, you know? Like, that's the main appeal for the people who are actually watching it. The appeal for me, again, is just getting more content out of me watching all these shows, that I get to make 15 videos about my experience watching them that might get 40,000 views apiece, and it's just a better justification, you know? And, like, I can find something to say about every show I watch, but it might not be much. Like, there are certain shows that literally have, like, 12-second clips in Finish or Fail, you know? Where I just, like, it's just me going, nope, and then moving on to the next show.
But the thing is, because now the two of us are doing Finish or Fail, and, like, I like to do them with you because I know that if we do them together, you'll actually, like, continue the series. Because I honestly, like, don't see you doing it unless we were doing it together.
Right.
Because I don't think that you have so much time to fill that you would just watch a bunch of shows by yourself.
Yeah.
And then, like, even if I'm not in the episode, we'll still be, like, watching the show together.
Right.
So it makes sense to have me be on the show, because obviously, like, I'm gonna help you to bring up points, to bounce things off, and, like,
because we usually talk through the shows too, like, regardless of what shows up in the episode or who says what. Usually it's like, we have conversations while we're watching it, and then, like, I try to remind you of something that you said while we were watching it so that you can say it again, or if you can't seem to remember something you said, I'll just say it myself, you know? But, like,
wow, I beat the second trainer, but now all I have is an Alteria.
Like, not everything that I even say on these shows is something that I originally said. It might be an idea that you brought up while we were watching the show, and then I brought it up during the discussion.
I mean, that's why the episodes have been getting longer and longer, is because it's no longer just a single standalone person's opinion. It's a discussion somebody had with somebody else about the show that had evolved into other points. And, like, I think that it changes kind of the dynamic of what Finish or Fail is, because it used to be just, like, rapid fire, like, I'm gonna watch all the shows, and, like, a lot of them we're not gonna have a discussion about, because I just didn't like it and I didn't think it was a good show. But, like, I always feel guilty being on it, because I feel like there are more people who just would like to hear your straight opinions and not the discussion you had with somebody else to come to certain points. Like, I understand why you would want to have me on the show, because I come up with points that you can bounce off of, and it's more fun to do it with somebody else, and you can say more things about something if you have somebody else's perspective to add into it. So that's why the episodes are getting longer. But, like, I feel like people just don't value what I bring to the table, and I understand why people might feel that way. Like, I don't, like, when I read comments that are like, oh, well, May didn't even have to be on this one and stuff, it's like, well, I am imagining what this would look like if I wasn't on it, and it would be a different format. It would
Right.
be you just, like, whipping out your camera, being like, oh, I just finished this show. It sucked.
Yeah.
And, like, I don't know if people really care for the discussion that we have, so I feel kind of guilty, like, being on that show.
I think the discussion we have is way more interesting, but I also think that it's the way that it's represented on the show that causes people to feel that way. Because, like I said, like, straight up, I just say things that you had said before sometimes. Like, and
Right.
I'm constantly trying to encourage you to make the points that you had made before because of the fact that I want to curb this perception. That's why, like, sometimes when we're talking, I'll be like,
So let's
remember
not
that
waste
thing you
her.
said in the episode? And the reason for that is that...
Let's get Alteria
Are you-
and... I'm just...
Okay, so just making sure that...
I'm listening to you.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to figure out what the best...
I'll give you time if you want to
Keep going.
concentrate.
Keep going.
I was trying to say that, like, when we're doing these episodes and you, like, I try to make you bring up the same point you brought up during the show, because in everyday life, I'm the type of person who likes to explain things for other people. Because I see people floundering in how they explain themselves, and I know I can do it better because that's what my job is. I take what somebody else said, and I explain it in a way that's easier for other people to understand. That's why I've called myself a translator a lot of times. I've done this in a lot of public settings. I've done this between random people, you know? Like, I'm good at being an intermediary and explaining what somebody means better than they can explain it, you know? And, like... You like that about me. You will defer to me to do that in everyday conversation, you know? Like, if the two of us meet somebody and they ask you a question and you think I could answer it just fine, you'll just let me answer it, you know? And
yeah,
so, like...
and I think a lot of that is because, like, I don't value in particular how I would word something. Like, I don't
Right.
necessarily think I'm somebody with a ton of charisma. I think I'm somebody who can have interesting things to say and have funny things to say.
Right.
But I'm not somebody who, like, particularly enjoys explaining myself.
Right.
And I get frustrated sometimes explaining myself because I don't know... Because I get hung up over the words.
Right.
That's why I like explaining myself and writing better. Why I consider myself a better writer is because if I don't have the exact words to explain how I feel, I get frustrated and don't really see the point in even trying to persuade somebody with my spoken word, because that's not necessarily how I'd even want to present myself in the first place. So you are somebody who I am confident in and is confident in themselves and how they're going to phrase something,
Right.
which is really valuable. And, like, I wouldn't go so far as to say, like, I would just defer to you, but, like,
Yeah.
there's certain times when, like, I would like you to translate a point for me because I don't want to have to
Explain yourself
I
more
don't
than once.
I don't really think that I could explain myself better than you could explain the thing that I'm trying to say.
Right.
Because if you're explaining it, you can take away the bias that I would have. You can put it into words the other person would understand better. That person may be more receptive to what you're going to say because you're somebody you're a man.
Yeah.
You are somebody who makes money, and I'm kind of like a weird autist.
You can put it that way if you want. I'm also a weird autist, but, you know,
Yeah, but you have social skills.
sure.
You have socializing
You have social skills,
I do too, but, like, I'm not confident in them.
Right.
Like, I wouldn't say that that's a strong point. I wouldn't say that my ability to explain myself has ever really, like, it would have probably hurt me more than helped me.
Mm-hmm.
And, like, if I can write down a point, I think I can get it across stronger. Oh my god. Alteria died.
Yeah, I think that's it's
no.
really interesting. If you listen to old Digi Bros, a lot of the times Victor would say something, like, try to make a point, and then he would get stopped up, and then he would literally just ask me to try to explain it better. He'd be like, do you know what I mean? Can you explain this kind of attitude? And then if I explained it wrongly, that would be when a conversation began, you know?
Okay, the characters in the crowd of the stadium look terrible.
Oh, yeah, I noticed that as well.
Like, it's just
They're
the
really
trainer
funny.
designs, like, in a weird...
They look way too small.
This
like,
looks like...
They look like
This looks like the
miniatures,
Olympics
right?
game
It's
for
really
the
hilarious.
N64. Like, I can't believe that.
Why are they so small?
It's really dumb.
Why aren't they full-size people?
I don't know. Oh no.
It's so fucking funny. Yeah, like, so a lot of the time, yeah, it would be like Victor would try to explain something, I'd explain it for him, and then if I explained it wrong, that's when we have to hash it out, you know. But if I explained it well, then he'd just be like, yeah, or maybe he'll think of how to expand on it as I'm talking about it. And you do this as well, but like, you and I are just like, there's less chance that we're going to disagree, whereas like Victor and I, sometimes Victor, it just sees things differently from how I do, and the way I explain it isn't satisfactory to him. Like, I just think that when I explain something that you have said, it just comes through clear enough that you have no reason to challenge it. You know?
And a lot of the times we're coming through the same place, but like, there's certain times, i.e. the college discussion that we were having earlier, where I have a different experience and a different point of view, and I am frustrated because, like, I know where you're coming from, but I just don't think that it's, like, extremely I don't think it's well balanced enough of an argument to be had. I just, like, I also don't really value arguments. Like, I don't think that a lot comes from having arguments, so I'm less likely to get into one unless I personally feel like there is a consequence if I don't have my point stated. Like, if you explain something for me to somebody else and it's like a little bit different, I'm not gonna be like, oh, well, you made a mistake, or like, I'm not gonna shit on you. Like, I don't know.
Unless it's like I explain something in such a negative way, like that it would. If I explain to somebody, oh yeah, she loves nuts, you'd have to be like, wait, you know.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Oh boy. This has been a really interesting episode.
I think so too.
I feel like I've gotten into
it's been a roller coaster of just emotions and reactions, and like, whenever I really want to talk about something, I always like want to do a Let's Play, because it's kind of therapeutic just to air, like. That
was why I wanted to do the Misanthropy one so badly.
It's also kind of scary too, because
there can be consequences.
Yeah, it's an emotional reaction that you're having, and like, people are gonna take it at face value because you're saying something on a public platform. People might like quote you, or like take snippets of a Let's Play and like, you know, make a video about it. Like, that's happened before.
It's really unfortunate that so many people don't look at YouTube as an art form, because I think that when you get into this mode of thinking, like, these are all performances. Like, every Let's Play is a performance. Even if the idea is, oh, we're going to be just purely comedy, like, you have to maintain a comedic atmosphere. If it's like, oh, we're going to talk nonstop over it, it's like, you don't do that in your day-to-day life. You don't talk nonstop. No, at no point do you just thought dump everything on your mind for hours on end in your everyday life. You are putting on a performance when you do it on a Let's Play show. And so when people take a Let's Play conversation at face value as just a regular conversation between two people, it's like, no regular conversation sounds like this.
They're ignoring all of the context of the Let's Play.
Right. And that's why not only can you not take the things talked about on these shows too seriously, but you can't take the gameplay seriously either, because it's so heavily affected by the conversation. And like, comments will always go in on both of those, because it's something that you literally can't understand unless you try to do it, because you think of it in your head as like, I play video games and I don't struggle like this. Sometimes I even have my friends over and I'm having a conversation with my friend while I'm playing the game, and I don't struggle like this. It's like the level of difference between that experience and like setting up a recording studio, sitting in front of a microphone, and like trying to play a game and have a totally unrelated conversation at the same time and not stopping at all, you know, is a very different experience. And not to say that you have to do that much for a Let's Play. It's just that, like, you know, the ones that people are actually watching tend to be the ones that have a little bit more production in them, unless you're watching someone because they're good at the game. That's a different genre, though, you know? And it's just kind of, it's funny to me to see people kind of expect both, because I don't think anybody out there does both. I don't think there's anybody who's ever done like amazing gameplay performance and interesting conversation at the same time, you know?
Yeah.
It's not a genre that exists because it's not possible. You can't play to the top of your ability and talk.
Yeah, that's why most people that do content like that just commentate over their recorded footage, which it isn't
or you
like
have
a
live
fun
commenters.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Like Games Done Quick streams, you know? It's like there's a guy commentating over it so that you understand what's happening.
Exactly.
And like they might mic the players, but they usually will just like grumble something every once in a while when they have like a brief moment where they can go on autopilot. They'll be like, "Oh yeah, so right there I did the jump tech or whatever," you know.
So, what are your favorite Let's Players and why?
I don't have any anymore. They all died.
I mean, so have mine.
Do you
so
want my
have
of
mine.
all time list?
Yeah, and just like why.
Okay. Well, the all-time greats were the Game Grumps, and it was just because they were constantly entertaining. They would burn through games mega fast, because like they did 2 videos a day forever, and so usually they, you know, if they had a longer game, it might be going for months on end, but it would be in one slot. So you'd be getting an episode of, let's say, The Wind Waker every day, but then you're also getting an episode of something completely different. In most games, they just played for a little bit and then tossed it out. You know, it was usually like a couple of episodes, or it was like a multiplayer game or just something weird, you know, that they just wanted to showcase. It was rare that they played a game all the way through. So you got both variety and the longer series. And the longer series would be the ones where they'd get into the really good stories, talking about their lives and past and like what they do and hanging out. Or if they play a really bad game, they could have really funny reactions. Original lineup, Aaron and John was great. Aaron and Dan was great up until a point where it just got old because literally they ran out of stories. It got to a point where it's like we know everything about Aaron and Dan. There is nothing unique for them to talk about. So it becomes more them reacting to the games because they ran out of things to discuss, you know? Because they try to keep it to funny and interesting and fun discussions. They never try to get real or dark or anything like that. And when you have that limited range of expression, it's like only certain stories are going to be worth telling. Like, yeah, if you go to Disneyland, that's a fun story for that show. But like, you know, talking shit about internet creators like I'll do on a Let's Play, you know, that's why I have more content. That's why Digibro can be a human content machine and stay interesting, is because he'll talk about anything, you know, any minute aspect of my life. And, like, things happen to me at about the same rate that I can talk about them, you know?
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, it's like you spend the first half of your day having things happen and the second half talking about it. But, like, so yeah, so that's why Game Grumps got boring. But then there was Let's Drown Out, which was Yahtzee and Gabriel. That show was great while it lasted, but when I try to go back to it, it's like they talked so much about current events. It was almost always about like new gaming news or like something that had happened in the media or like upcoming releases or E3 or something, and it's just like it's impossible to go back to that shit. Like when you already know the consequences of the thing that they're talking about, like what is going to happen, you don't want to listen to their speculation because it sounds retarded, you know? Or just it's exactly what it ended up being and it doesn't matter. So yeah, that one's hard to return to. Then there was Mumkey's Gaming Expedition, which I was a big fan of because of the level of like production he did in his Let's Plays, the fact that he had so much audience involvement and was like playing with fairly strict rules, you know, while remaining like comedy focused. And then there was also the stuff he did with Manimal, which was always entertaining. But that eventually got boring because it got to a point where he, like, it was too obvious that he was just really good at Pokemon and was never going to fail, you know, unless he like massively fucked up. But it's like doing a Pokemon Nuzlocke isn't necessarily hard as long as you don't give yourself too many restrictions, you know. It's like, as long as you can get, like, Gyarados, like, the game is not as difficult as it would seem, you know, unless you, like, get really unlucky or something. But he would always fucking win, like, handily, so there was no drama to it, you know. He'd almost never even lose a Pokemon. except for when he went to Kanto in the Silver Let's Play. I think he lost in the Kanto exploration part.
I don't remember because I only watched a couple of Mumkey's like Pokemon Nuzlockes, and to me it's always more interesting to see somebody doing well at Pokemon because like you have to be really creative in Nuzlocke with what kind of strats that you're gonna use.
Yeah.
So I always think that's like really cool, and like a lot of my favorite Let's Players.
It was cool for a while. It's just that by the time he got to like his third or fourth Nuzlocke, he was using the same strats, and he was always gonna like. You're not like he would put more restrictions on himself. It would be like, oh, now I have to be even lower leveled, but like he would still be using like all the Pokemon.
So I don't really want to play this anymore right now.
Right.
Because I have to grind up a little bit more. The thing about this game is like there's not a lot of opportunities to make money unless you're like going through the battle tower constantly. I don't have any money to buy revives or potions anymore. So I need to make some more money and level up my team so I can actually defeat those trainers. I got pretty close that last time. I almost caught Houndour.
Yeah, are you gonna do off-screen grinding?
If I want to finish this game, I have to, cause as it stands right now, like.
Did you want to say who your favorite Let's Players were?
I pretty much already said like I'm not into video games.
Right.
Like I wouldn't like. There was a time in my adolescence when I played the GameCube a whole lot, but like, you know, you get older and you kind of realize you have other interests, and I was always more into like reading and art. And
have you ever felt that like have you ever felt like let down by the fact that I am so interested in talking more about games? Or is it like acceptable because anime is so shit right now?
I mean, I'm always just happy to see your opinion on art, and like you're not just talking about games in a bubble, like you're always relating it to other kinds of like things, like other aspects of the game, aspects of storytelling, and you always have something interesting to say. And like right now you're talking about GameCube games, which I played the GameCube a whole lot when I was growing up. It was like probably like the most time I spent with the console.
Same.
I'm really familiar with the GameCube library. I have a ton of GameCube games that like we have here.
Right. We're playing a GameCube game right now.
So that's interesting for me. With the live streams and stuff though, I kind of do feel that way because like I like to watch the live streams, and I like you and Tom, and I like your dynamic, but I don't really give that much of a damn about like Chrono Cross or about Shinobi. Like, it's fun, it's cool,
I think
but
we should possibly try to just integrate the GameCube identity into the streams as well, and just make it, because like the point of the streams in the first place was supposed to be we play through the game so that we can talk about it on the show, and like there's too many games that like we tried to just individually do that with, but like the game doesn't turn out to be that interesting, or the series doesn't turn out that interesting.
I mean,
and then like there's not always new games coming out, so it's like if we want to consistently have a reason to talk about old games, there needs to be some kind of theme, and like I'm down to make that theme GameCube, you know, and then like we talk about new games and GameCube
on
games,
Twitch,
you know?
Like there are particular games that do well on Twitch that can
well,
garner an audience, and those are not old games.
We also though can now stream on YouTube, because the only reason we weren't streaming on YouTube before is that we literally couldn't monetize it in any way. So why not stream on Twitch? But we could just bounce our streams to both and see if it performs better on YouTube playing old games.
I mean, I think doing it on YouTube for old games will have less of an impact than doing it on Twitch, because if on Twitch all you're doing is old games, you're not going to get new people coming to your channel because they're not searching for those old games.
Right, exactly.
Versus on YouTube, you're just getting people who are already subscribing to you. I just like don't think that like the Twitch streams were made for me, and I kind of accept that, and like it's fun just to hear what you guys have to say, but I'm not so invested in games. But like if you choose to take your career in more of like a game approach, I'm not going to be disappointed. Like there'll always be great discourse about anime, and like even if the stuff that comes out like on a season to season basis isn't great, like there's always an amazing back catalog of anime to revisit, and like it's still, everything still hasn't been said. Like there's still tons of like famous people in the industry who haven't had a spotlight on them. There's still tons of shows that need to be revisited, and I don't know. I'm always just happy to see like what you're doing change and to see you improve. And I think that your video game writing has improved dramatically. Like listening to that Luigi's Mansion video was really awesome. Like I really enjoyed that video because you can tell how you've improved.
Right.
And you can tell kind of the direction that like this is going in, and it's something that I think not only me but the audience is like excited for. So
I'm excited to write about Super Monkey Ball.
Oh yeah, Super Monkey Ball is great. We've been playing that.
We got to play more of it because I really want to. I want to really give a go at actually trying to beat like higher levels of the game at least before I review it.
Yeah.
Like,
so I don't want to play this anymore. I don't want to just run around in the square.
I just you were giving a really interesting
I just
dialogue, so I wanted to hear the rest of it. But
I'm just sucking
that's all
your dick.
for this episode of Pokemon Colosseum.
Yeah, no hard feelings, Vic.
I guess this will not be the
sorry.
last episode.